Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope all the students are okay. Well, that's fine that you're okay. I want you to recall what we've done during session number 25. Yes, we talked about the vowel sounds of English. We tried to understand what kind of these sounds are. And we came to know that some of them are front vowel sounds, some are central vowel sounds, and some are back vowel sounds. At the same time, we try to understand some of the difficult areas of phonology. We talked about physical attributes, do you remember? Yes, exactly. And we also tried to understand the translation between languages. And I had a talk on this, a rather detailed talk on this. We try to find equivalents when we are translating one language into other. And I also talked about the absence of certain sounds in different languages. I refer to one international language, that is Arabic, the other local language, that is Pashto. Remember, at the same time, I had a talk on this, that please try to make a direct bond. There are certain common things among the languages, but when we are learning some foreign language, you have to think directly about that language. So this is session number 26, and we have something different to talk about today, and we have got something else to learn. All right? Welcome to session number 26, my dear students, and let's see what we have to learn today. Well, today's topic is minimal pairs. It is possible to some this word or this phrase is new. It is again possible that some of you already know what is pair. When we talk about a language, when we talk about words, yes, definitely we have to talk about words and the pair of words. I'm sure that you must have done this in your secondary school certificate academic life, or maybe intermediate, or maybe in your graduation. But today we have to learn what in fact minimal pairs are. So let's try to understand what are minimal pairs. I want to thank first of all for this slide before we start, and the reference is very much given at the bottom of this slide. You can see the reference, right? So thanks to ENGL1118, published in 2018, that is my acknowledgement for this particular reference. Now I want you to recall what you can see now. Think about Arabic language. Think about your days when you were a little child, you started learning the Holy Quran. But before actually reading the Holy Quran, your teachers, and of course my teachers, they asked us to study one booklet, and that was just the Quran. It was in fact to get us familiarized with the sound pattern of Arabic language. For example, you've got a table in front of you, and there are certain combinations and there is certain comparison and contrast. Especially the contrast is here. For example, on the top you can see there is a contrast in between two letters. The first one is Sin and Sod. The second one is He and He. The third one is Ain and Hamza. Fourth one is Zoe and Zal, or Ze. Okay? Now what happens in fact? As I told you that there are certain commonalities among the languages. We are talking about minimal pairs, and we have to learn minimal pairs so far as English language is concerned. There are minimal pairs available in other languages. For instance, this time you have got Arabic minimal pairs. I will not read each and every for you. You can read. For example, the first one is Ain, Sin, Ye, Re. and then Ain, Sod, Ye, Re. So what is the difference you find in between two words? Yes, the difference is only of one letter, and this letter contains a sound. In the first word, it is Ain, Sin, Ye and Re. And the second word, it is Ain, Sod, Ye and Re. So that means the difference is of Sin and Sod. Similarly, let's talk about the second pair. You've got Hamid and Hamid. The first Hamid starts with H, Hey, and the next Hamid starts with H. Similarly, Alam and Alam, Ain and Alif. So the difference is in between Ain and Alif. So the fourth one is, the first is Zoe, the next one is Zal or Zay. Now that's very important to understand, that there is a difference of only one phoneme or one letter. Here I'm talking about letter. And this slide provides you the basic to learn minimal pairs. Now the question arises, why I have brought this slide for you people. Remember, I wanted to present before you that there is a commonality among languages. There are certain properties all the languages enjoy. For example, sound system, sub-sound systems. I am not saying that everything is alike, so far all the languages are concerned. I am not saying that. What I am saying is there is some sort of commonality. Right? In Urdu, for example, we have got pairs, minimal pairs. So is the case with English language. So having foundation of this particular slide, let's start to learn minimal pairs. Well, after having seen the previous slide, I think we are in the position to say that a minimal pair is a pair of words that differ in a single phoneme. This is what I was talking about. Do you remember Ain, Sin, Ye, Re, and Ain, Sod, Ye, Re? So what is the difference? The difference was only because of one single letter, or maybe in our case I would like to talk about one phoneme. So a minimal pair is a pair of words that differ in a single phoneme. That's the first thing you must remember. What is a minimal pair? If there is a question, the answer is that a minimal pair is a pair of words that differ in a single phoneme. The second thing you must remember is that minimal pairs are often used to show that two sounds contrast in a language. What I'm saying? Minimal pairs are often used to show that two sounds contrast in a language. Two sounds in contrast. Don't get confused. When I'm saying contrast, that means I'm using a noun. When I'm saying contrast, that means I'm using this word as a verb. So minimal pairs are often used to show that two sounds contrast in a language. One language, two sounds, but they are in contrast. For example, we can demonstrate that S or S and Z or Z contrast in English by using minimal pairs such as sip and zip, or bus and buzz. Take the first pair. There are three sounds in sip: S, I, P. And in zip, we have got three sounds: Z, I, P. But sip, when we say zip, the contrast is in between s and z. And what we have learnt is a minimal pair is a pair of words that differ in a single phoneme. Now this is applied over here. In sip, it is s. Two remaining sounds are same, I and P, as in zip. Or in that paired word, for example, bus and buzz. The ending sound is s in bus, and the ending sound is z in buzz. Don't get confused about the spellings. Just think about phonemes, please. So the ending sound in bus is s and buzz is z. So again we can apply that a minimal pair is a pair of words that differ in a single phoneme. Now, since the only difference in these words is the s versus z, we conclude that they belong to distinct phonemes. They belong to distinct phonemes. Remember, this is the distinction of phonemes we are talking about. Is it clear? So after having said that, we are in the position to say that minimal pairs serve as tools to establish that two or more sounds are contrastive. What are minimal pairs then? What is their role? What is their service? They serve as tools to establish what? That two or more sounds are contrastive. There is a contrast in between two sounds. And that's why a difference in sound means a difference in meaning. We change the sound, we change the meaning. Sip, when S is not used or S is not used in zip. So what happens? It's not only the pronunciation, but it is the meaning that is also changed. So a difference in sound means a difference in meaning. And thus a minimal pair is the clearest and easiest way to identify phonemes in a language. That means we can identify the words with the help of phonemes, contrastive phonemes. The contrastive phonemes in sip and zip are s and z. S and z. In the beginning, remember s is there in sip. Z is there in zip. In bus, the ending sound is s. In buzz, the ending sound is z. But remember, in both the cases, the total numbers of phonemes are equal. S, it, p, 3 phonemes. Z, it, p, 3 phonemes. B, a, s, bus, 3 phonemes. B, a, z, 3 phonemes. That means there must be equivalence, equal number of phonemes required so far as the minimal pairs are concerned. Alright? This is what I was talking about. Look at this slide. These are 4 basic rules for minimal pairs. These are minimal pair rules. Number 1. The words must have the same number of sounds. This is what I was talking about. Yeah, the words must have the same number of sounds. The second is, the words must be identical in every sound except for one. Sip and zip. The words must be identical in every sound except for one. Sip and zip. Bus and buzz. Alright? The words must be identical in every sound except for one. So that means there is only one change of phoneme. There must be total numbers, equal total numbers of phonemes, but the change will be only for one phoneme. Then the third rule is, the sound that is different must be in the same position in each word. The sound that is different must be in the same position in each word. Sir in the beginning, Z in the beginning, Sir at the end in case of bus, Z at the end in the case of buzz. And then the word must have different meaning. There must be change in the meaning. There is a difference of meaning in zip and zip, and bus and buzz. So these are basic 4 rules for minimal pairs. Alright? Now remember, in minimal pairs, or to understand minimal pairs, it's very important to understand word position and context. Alright? Why? Because with regard to both creating and understanding minimal pairs, context is everything. It's context. Right? With regard to both creating and understanding minimal pairs, context is everything. For example, the only way we can create a minimal pair with reference to the 2 sounds involved is to put them in exactly the same environment in terms of word position and the surrounding context. So not out of the context we can use the minimal pairs. It's very important. What is the word position when we are speaking, when we are writing, when we are engaged in writing minimal pairs? The only way we can create a minimal pair with reference to the 2 sounds involved is to put them in exactly the same environment in terms of word position and the surrounding context. That's very important, and that's the point you must never forget. Okay? Now, what can we say safely? We can safely say that the phonemes of a given language form a system in which they are all opposed to one another. To prove this statement, I am taking up the example of English per. Only per. So per is one sound. I'm going to use it not only so far as this slide is concerned, but in the coming slides as a contrast. Contrast in between some other phonemes. Now let's start. Per is opposed to bur, as in pig and big. Watch, 2 words are written within slashes. Per, I, g, pig. Bur, I, g, big. And now look at the spelling. P-I-G and B-I-G. Then per is opposed to ter, as in P, T. Look at the spelling. Per, P-E-A and T-E-A. So E-A is producing E sound in both the words. But the difference is per and ter. The next is per is opposed to der, as in pig, dig. Per, I, g, pig. Der, I, g, dig. Again, you can see the spelling P-I-G, pig, and D-I-G, dig. The next is per is opposed to cur, as in pat and cat. Per, a, t. Cur, a, t. Cat. And look at the spelling now. P-A-T, pat, and C-A-T, cat. And now you are capable of applying all the rules which I have talked about, just talked about. Alright? Our next example is per is opposed to ger, as in pot and got. Per or to pot, ger or to got. Look at the spellings. P-O-T, pot, G-O-T, got. The next is per is opposed to mer, as in pat and mat. Per, a, t, pat. Mer, a, t, mat. Look at the spellings now. P-A-T, pat, M-A-T, mat. The next is per is opposed to ner, as in pit and knit. Per, it, pit, ner, it, knit. Look at the spellings. P-I-T, pit, K-N-I-T, knit. So remember, k sound is not spoken here. Don't run after the spellings. The next example is per is opposed to ing, as in rip and ring. R, I, p, rip. R, I, ing, ring. Look at the spelling. R-I-P, rip. R-I-N-G, ring. Alright? Our next example is per is opposed to fer, as in peat and feed. Per, e, t, peat. Fer, e, t, feed. Look at the spellings. P-E-A-T, peat, and F-E-E-T, feed. The next one is per is opposed to ver, as in pet and vet. Per, a, t, pet. Ver, a, t, vet. Spellings are P-E-T, pet, V-E-T, vet. So please do not pronounce it as wet, W-E-T. No. It is upper teeth, lower lip, vet. The next is per is opposed to ther, as in port and thought. Per, or, t, port. Ther, or, t, thought. Look at the spellings. P-O-R-T, port, and T-H-O-U-G-A-T, thought. The next is per is opposed to the, as in pat and that. Per, a, t, pat. The, a, t, that. So P-A-T, pat, and T-H-A-T, that. Our next example is per is opposed to sir, as in pat and sat. Per, a, t, pat. Sir, a, t, sat. The spellings are P-A-T, pat, and S-A-T, sat. The next is per is opposed to sir, as in pip and zip. Per, I, pip. Pip. Sir, I, p. Zip. The spellings are P-I-P, pip, and S-Z-I-P, zip. The next is per is opposed to sure, as in P and she. P, E, P. Sh, E, she. Spellings are P-E-A, P, and S-H-E, she. The next one is per is opposed to je, as in leper and leisure. Le, a, p, leper. Le, a, je, leisure. The spellings are L-E-P-E-R, leper, and L-E-I-S-U-R-E, leisure. Well, after detailed analysis, the question arises, what are minimal pairs? If there is a question, for example, that what are minimal pairs now, and what you have understood about minimal pairs, remember your answer should be the two words that show distinctive features, distinguishing English sounds that are not necessarily distinctive in other languages. I repeat, well, after having seen the entire analysis, and we have used per with other sounds, with other phonemes in different words, by applying the full rules of minimal pairs, we are in the position to say the two words that show distinctive features distinguishing English sounds that are not necessarily distinctive in other languages. Or in other words, we can say that minimal pairs demonstrate the phonemes of a language. So what we can say? We can say minimal pairs demonstrate the phonemes of a language. So the first answer could be the two words that show distinctive features distinguishing English sounds that are not necessarily distinctive in other languages. Alright? And the other answer could be minimal pairs demonstrate the phonemes of a language. Alright? Well, we can further answer by saying that minimal pairs are pairs of words that share all except one sound in order. Alright? Pair of words, but remember, there is a commonality so far as the two words are concerned, so far as the pair of words is concerned, and that pair of words, in fact, what happens? So, that share all except one sound in order. It's very important to know, and you must consider, and you must remember that since we are answering what are minimal pairs, and somebody asks, if somebody asks that what are minimal pairs after having detailed analysis, so we're in the position to say, something I talked about while picking up the previous slide, and this time I'm extending the answer that the minimal pairs are pair of words. They are the pairs of words that share all except one sound in order. And the one difference in sound creates a difference in meaning. So that's very important to understand, that if there is a difference in one sound, what happens? There is entire change of the meaning. Do you remember sir and sip and zip? That's very common example. Very common example. That if you say sip, and by replacing s with zip, z, what happens? It becomes zip. And sip is something else, and zip is something else. Maybe both are noun, but remember there is a change in the meaning. This is what is written over here. That minimal pairs are pairs of words that share all except one sound in order, and the one difference in sound creates a difference in meaning. Further, it doesn't matter which sound in the words is different. So not necessarily what is the sound. We are not concerned with the sound. What sound is different? That makes no difference at all. But there must be only one difference. This is what I am saying. The difference should be of one only. That's why it is minimal pair. Minimum means minimum. Minimal, minimal. It's minimum. Okay? That's why it is minimal pair. That it doesn't matter which sound in the word is different. But there must be only one difference. And the sounds must be in the same order in the words. Now, that is something very important to remember. Number one, it doesn't matter what sound is different in the words. No problem at all. But remember, there must be only one difference. There must be only one difference. Not more than one difference. And the next thing is that the sounds must be in the same order in the words. The order of the sounds in the words should be the same. That's very important. And then the most important thing is that the difference must affect the meaning. So this is the final point you have to understand. What? It doesn't matter which sound in the words is different. Number one. No problem. Whatever the sound is, that makes no difference. But there must be only one difference. That is the most important thing to remember. I hope you can recall 4 rules. We talked about 4 rules of minimal pairs, right? So according to those rules, what happens, that it doesn't matter what sound in the words is different, but there must be only one difference. Okay? And the sound must be in the same order in the words. For example, in the case of sip, sir is in the beginning. In the case of zip, Z is in the beginning. You replace S with Z, same position is there. But when we replace S with Z, there is a new word. New word, new meaning. And this is what we are understanding here. One, it doesn't matter which sound in the words is different. It's okay. But there must be only one difference. Now here, for example, I'm talking about sir and sir. There is only one difference, alright? And the second thing is, the sounds must be in the same order. You can see, when we say sip, sir is in the beginning. And when we say zip, z is in the beginning. Or for example, in the pair of words, bus and buzz. Sir is the ending sound in bus, and buzz is the ending sound in buzz. So if we replace s with z, if we replace sir with z, what happens? Bus comes and it becomes buzz. So here we find that the difference must affect the meaning. That's very important to understand. Okay? So now we are in the position to say that minimum pairs are pairs of words that share all except one sound in order, and the one difference in sound creates a difference in meaning. So that is what the summary of the second statement which I have been elaborating for you. Okay? Now for your understanding's sake, I have brought one more pair of words. Do you remember when I talked about two words, the pair of words, bus and buzz? Right? Bus has got 3 letters in it, and buzz has 4 letters in it, B-U-S and B-U-Z-Z. Okay? Now here, the words we have, ship or sheep, ship and sheep, ship and sheep. Now remember, these words represent a minimal pair. These words represent a minimal pair. Now watch, both words have 3 sounds. 3 sounds according to IPA. I hope you remember what is IPA. Yes, what is IPA? Can you tell me? Yes, you're right. International Phonetic Alphabet. Absolutely right. International Phonetic Alphabet. Absolutely right. Now, if you start writing the phonemes of these words, or this pair of words, what do we gather? Now watch. The first one is sh, I, p, ship. The next is sh, I, p, sheep. In the first word, the short vowel sound has been used, but in the second word, long vowel sound has been used. In the case of ship, sh, I, p. 3 phonemes are there, 3 sounds are there. In the case of sheep, we have 3 sounds, but there is only one difference. In the first word, we have short vowel sound. In the second word, we have got long vowel sound. Now you can see again that first sound in each word is the same sound. Alright? And the last sound in each word is the same. Sometimes it can occur in the beginning, sometime in the middle, sometime at the end. That makes no difference at all, because we have already talked about this. Alright? It's very important to remember these things. Is it clear? We can also elaborate this pair of words like this. Example, this is what I was telling you. The vowel sound in the middle, though it's different, right? I and E. In one case, the sound I is there. In another case, the sound E is there. Now watch. The first word has a high front tense unround vowel. I. It's a front vowel sound, isn't it? And the second word has a high front lax and round vowel. E. E. Both have got the same category. E and I. I hope you remember when I was talking about the front vowels, the central vowels and the back vowels. And I said E and I. I is close to front. That's why it is sometimes known as high front lax and round vowel. Alright? Now, this difference in sound of pronunciation changes the meaning of the word. That's very important to understand. If you use sh, I, pa, it is something else. And if you just change one sound, instead of I, you use E, it becomes something else. Are you getting my point? So all the rules which we have learned during this session or the discussion of this session, now we are applying to certain pairs of words. Alright? Now it is possible that some of you may ask that what is the importance of minimal pairs in English. There are certain questions, time and again, and the certain ideas strike the minds of the students or the learners. And I think we must be able to answer those questions, right? Maybe these are self-generated questions, and it is possible again that you have, maybe some of you have started thinking about the teachers who are teaching English at the schools, right? Primarily schools, right? And maybe at college level, but I think equally it is applicable to all the teachers. Maybe they are teaching at the university or college or school. But so far as my personal opinion is concerned, such things should be talked about and should be taught by the teachers at the school level, right? What happens when we have got understanding of such things or these things of English language, we can have, or we can say that we have got wonderful foundation. So if somebody is asking you what is the importance of minimal pairs, remember, what could be your answer? There are three different types of things that you can elaborate, you can answer, or you can comment on. Number one could be that minimal pairs are incredibly useful in the classroom when you are looking at the pronunciation of certain words and sounds. Wonderful activities you can bring in the classroom, for example, sometimes when you are mocking as a teacher, or maybe you are engaged in some sort of demonstration, maybe you are engaged in some sort of presentation, you can pick up this area, you can pick up this particular topic, and you can just demonstrate many pairs of words. On one side you are in fact talking about the concept of minimal pairs, and you are talking about minimal pairs. On the other side you are improving your pronunciation, and at the same time you are providing a chance to your classmates to improve their pronunciation, right? And think that we are not, just feel that we are not talking about polysyllabic words, but we are just concentrating on smaller types of words. So what happens though, these minimal pairs are really incredibly useful in the classroom, especially since it is possible that some of you are going to be the teachers and you want to become a practicing teacher, right? You want to do something in the world of English language teaching. So I think so you must store in mind. Your mind that, all right, this is the way to improve pronunciation of certain words. I'm not saying that you can improve pronunciation of each and every word, but at least it can provide you a wonderful stage where you can just build up, all right? You can build up. Then, the second statement says that they are used to isolate the single sound differences so that students can concentrate on the problem area without getting distracted by other noises, right? Maybe some other noise is there, but what happens, you can concentrate on one problem area. Only you are focusing on one single phoneme. That's very important, because we know already the difference should be of only one phoneme. That's very important to understand, right? So for example, in the classroom you are having some sort of activity on minimal pairs, and what happens that you don't think about the other noises. You simply feel that what is the difference of pronunciation or the sound in fact I am to track, or I am to concentrate, so you can easily distinguish the difference of one particular phoneme. So this is very important in the classroom. Maybe if you are in the crowd, do you remember that I said if you just you are in the crowd, think sit among your friends and start thinking about two words. One is, for example, helps, the other one is crabs. So what happens? You can even feel all right. In helps it is the s sound, but in crabs it is the z sound. So same s has been used in two words. So similarly you can do that sort of activity in the classroom among your class fellows, among your peers, so far as minimal pairs are concerned. So the third statement says that if there is a good store of minimal pairs at hand, then one can bring an appropriate few out as and when they are needed. So I think so again it plays a good part, a wonderful role in building up your vocabulary. It's very important that you must have a list of all minimal pairs, and you can use the connected speech. If you use these minimal pairs in your connected speech, what happens that you are in fact contributing to your own English speaking skill. So that's why time and again I'm saying that these minimal pairs are very important for the students. All right. Now the final words about minimal pairs. What is minimal pairs? What is minimal pairs? That is the final thing we have to ask ourselves. Whatever we have been discussing, I mean, I tried my level best to present before you many examples. I presented before you some tables so that you may understand the concept. At the same time, there are certain examples, and too many examples are there. You can and you are rather in the position to answer what are minimal pairs, right? Because we have tried our level best to analyze each and every aspect of minimal pairs. Now remember, in phonology, minimal pairs are pairs of words or phrases. Do you remember when I picked up this session, I had a talk that before starting this session I said that some of you may be understanding, or because, oh yes, we did the minimal pairs or pair of words in fact when we were SSC students or intermediate students. So maybe some it is possible that in your college life you had discussion on this, and maybe these were the part of your syllabus. But remember, this is the new way now you're understanding what are minimal pairs. Now pair of words, something else, right? So this is the in fact the world of minimal pairs. So in phonology, remember, minimal pairs are pairs of words or phrases in a particular language. Always remember, if you're talking about English, we are talking about minimal pairs of English. So in phonology, minimal pairs are pairs of words or phrases in a particular language. And when I say particular language, this time I'm talking about English. I'm not talking about any other language. Yes, I provided you some sort of a chance to understand what is in fact minimal pair. When I presented before you a slide containing Arabic minimal pairs. Of course, Arabic and Urdu very close to each other, because both the languages we write those languages from right to left, but we write English from left to right. So that's the major difference we have. But remember, as I told you, there is a commonality of certain things among languages. Okay, and I'm not saying every language, but many languages they have got minimal pairs. For example, Arabic has, so as Urdu. Yes, exactly, there are minimal pairs in Urdu. I am sure that you have done all those exercises in your college life, your school life. Now, what is the answer? The final words on minimal pairs is that in phonology, minimal pairs are pairs of words or phrases in a particular language which differ only one phonological element. There is only one difference, one phonological element. Sometimes I use the word phoneme, sometimes I use the word sound. This time I'm saying phonological element, such as phone or phony, and have distinct meanings. So that's very important. Now, all the things are hidden over here. All the rules are hidden in this statement. Number one, they are the minimal pairs are the pairs of words in a particular language. And in them what happens, there is difference of one phonological element. That could be phone or phoneme. But there is one distinction, and the distinction is again that meanings are different. So these are the things very important which we must remember while talking about minimal pairs. Okay? Well, dear students, always remember that the last part of each and every session is based on self-assessment. Time and again I remind you, and at the end of each and every session when I wind up the discussion or analysis, whatever I do, for example, if I'm analyzing, if I'm generating some sort of discussion on certain aspects or one or two aspects, I always ask you to concentrate on the last part of each and every session. Now what happens, there is a connection in between the slide number 2 of each session and the last slide. Slide number 2, I mean in the sense that after session name, the slide contains the topics. In other words, you can say slide number 3. So slide number 3 and the last slide of each session, there is a very close connection in between these two slides, because in these two slides what happens, the entire of our discussion, the entire of our understanding falls. It's very important. That's why maybe slide number 3, that contains the topics we have to discuss, topic or topics, and in between these two slides what happens, the entire of the things are there. Maybe certain statements, certain analysis, certain examples, and of course the views of certain phoneticians or linguists or whatever the things are. So that's why I always ask you to be very conscious about the last slide, because if you're not conscious about the last slide, that is definitely self-assessment component. What happens? What happens in fact? Why do I remind you? The reason is that it is possible. I'm saying it's a possibility. I'm not saying it happens. It might happen that we lose concentration on the things which we discussed during the session. When we are conscious. Now in face-to-face interaction, what happens? The instructor talks about the topic and the objective is all the time in the mind. At the end of the session, what happens? There is certain discussion. There is discussion among the students. There is discussion in between the instructor and the students. But at the end of the session, so far as face-to-face interaction is concerned, so there is possibility that we can have certain question answers. And there are certain question answers if the time allows us. But what happens when we are teaching and learning virtually? So there are certain limitations. That's why time and again I told you that I always place you people in front of me, and I think that I am in the classroom. That's why I follow the natural speech. The way I speak in the classroom, I try to speak and record my session like that, so that there is the feeling of face-to-face interaction. Yes, exactly, we are not, but that's why I take pauses, I put questions, and expect when I'm putting question, all right, there is a response from my student. And you are the better judge of yourself. You are the better judge of yourself. When you are watching this session or listening to this session, it depends upon you whether you are quite serious, or you are sitting, you are lying on your bed, or you have got some sort of answer sheets with you, you have got pen with you. So the seriousness you have to determine. What is your seriousness you have to determine. But what I can do is that I can bring this particular part to the session, and that is self-assessment component. Now I want you today to tell me what do you know about minimal pairs. Always remember, the question is very simple. Question is very small. Question is very short. Right? Question is always short. It is the answer. Either it is brief answer, either it is a long answer, what you call subjective. So you must remember that whatever we have discussed, 15 slides, 17 slides, or maybe 20 slides or plus 20 slides. So that doesn't mean that the entire of the things are here, right? Too much of stuffing of the slides is not good idea. That's why the extra material is with you, sport material is with you, and you can refer to some other books. You are free. So I want you to tell me today, what do you know about minimal pairs? I want you to explain them. And I want you to explain them. You can pick up some of the examples from this session, and you can have some more examples from other sources. All right? So today's task is to tell us your understanding about minimal pairs by explaining them. So thank you very much for this session. From my side, goodbye and good luck. Stay blessed.